The rain hammered against the windows of the old security office like 1,000 tiny fists demanding entry. William sat hunched over the worn wooden desk, his reading glasses catching the dim light from the single lamp above him. The night log lay open before him, its pages yellowed with age and coffee stains. He was the new head of security at Riverside Correctional Facility, a position he'd taken reluctantly after his wife passed away 6 months ago. The job kept him busy, kept his mind occupied, kept the loneliness at bay, at least during the long night shifts. William ran his finger down the entries from the previous evening. Standard stuff, cell checks at 9, perimeter walk at 11. Nothing unusual. But then his finger stopped on an entry made at 2:17 in the morning. The handwriting was shaky. Rushed, heard crying from Block D, 3rd floor. Cell 347. Investigated. Prisoner asleep. No source found. William frowned. Block D had been empty for 3 years, ever since the fire. The entire wing was condemned, waiting for renovations that the state budget never seemed to cover. He leaned back in his chair, which groaned under his weight, and looked at the name signed at the bottom of the entry. Marcus Chen, the overnight guard. Before you continue with this story, if you're enjoying it, hit that subscribe button. These real-life stories take time to research and share, and your support means everything. William glanced at the clock, 1:43 a.m. Marcus would be making his rounds soon. He'd ask him about it then. It's probably just a mistake. Maybe Marcus had gotten confused, written the wrong block number. It happened. Night shifts played tricks on tired minds. But something about the shaky handwriting bothered him. William turned the page, expecting to find more routine entries. Instead, he found another note from Marcus. This one written at 3:05 a.m. Went back to Block D, door to 3rd floor was open. I know I locked it. Crying louder now. Sounds like a child. Checked cell 347 again. Empty. Searched entire floor. Found nothing. Locking wing and reporting to supervisor. William's chest tightened. He looked up from the log, his eyes moving to the bank of security monitors on the wall. Most showed the usual scenes, empty corridors, sleeping cell blocks. The exercise yard covered in darkness and rain. One monitor showed Block D, the entrance door stood wide open. William's hand moved to the radio on his belt. His mouth went dry. He pressed the call button. Marcus, this is William. What's your 20? Static. He tried again. Marcus, Chen, respond please. More static, then a crackle. A voice came through, but it was broken, distant. Block. 3rd. You need 2. The transmission cut out. William stood up fast, his chair skidding backward. His heart pounded in his chest as he grabbed his flashlight and keys. Every instinct told him to call for backup, to wake the other guards, to follow protocol. But something in Marcus's broken voice made him move toward the door instead. He had to check Block D himself. He had to know what was in cell 347, the corridor leading to Block D. Stretched before William like a throat swallowing him whole. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, buzzing with that electrical hum that made his teeth ache. His boots echoed on the concrete floor with each step. Too loud in the oppressive silence. He'd worked in prisons for 23 years. He knew the sounds of these places. The distant coughs, the snoring, the occasional shout from a nightmare. But tonight, Riverside was silent in a way that felt wrong. Unnatural. William reached the entrance to Block D and stopped. The heavy steel door stood open. Just as the monitor had shown, the lock mechanism was intact, not forced. Someone had opened it with a key. Marcus, probably, during his investigation. But the door should have closed automatically. That was the whole point of the hydraulic system. He pushed the door wider. It moved without resistance, gliding on well-oiled hinges. Beyond the threshold, darkness waited. The power to Block D had been cut years ago to save money. His flashlight beam cut through the black, revealing dust particles dancing in the air. Marcus. His voice sounded small, absorbed by the empty space. No answer. William stepped inside. The smell hit him immediately. Mold, decay, and something else. something sweet and rotten, like fruit left too long in summer heat. He covered his nose with his sleeve and moved forward. The beam of his flashlight swept across overturned chairs. Old clipboards scattered on the floor. A broken television set. Everything had been left exactly as it was the night of the fire. The state had cleared out the prisoners, but abandoned the furniture, the paperwork, the remnants of routine life. He found the stairwell and began climbing to the third floor. Each step creaked under his weight. The metal railing was cold beneath his palm, slick with condensation or something worse. He didn't want to think about it. At the top of the stairs, William paused to catch his breath. He wasn't as young as he used to be. His knees ached, his lungs burned. But it wasn't just exertion making his heart race. It was the sound, faint, distant, but unmistakable. Child crying. William's blood ran cold. His hand tightened on the flashlight. There were no children in this facility. There were no children anywhere near this facility. The nearest residential area was 3 miles away. The crying came from down the hallway. From the direction of cell 347, he forced his feet to move. The corridor was lined with open cell doors. Their small windows like empty eye sockets staring at nothing. His flashlight beam bounced from wall to wall, revealing peeling paint, graffiti scratched into concrete, old bloodstains that had never been properly cleaned. Cell 344, cell 345, cell 346. The crying grew louder. William stopped in front of cell 347. The door was closed. His hand reached for the handle, then hesitated. Every fiber of his being screamed at him to turn around, to run, to get out of Block D, and never come back. But he thought of Marcus's shaky handwriting. The fear in that broken radio transmission. He opened the door. The cell was empty. A bare metal bed frame, toilet, a sink. Nothing else. The crying stopped the instant the door swung open. It was cut off as suddenly as a switched-off radio. William stepped inside, sweeping his light across every surface. No hidden corners. No place for anyone to hide. His foot hit something. He looked down. A small teddy bear lay on the floor, its fur matted and dirty. One of its button eyes was missing. William bent down slowly, his knees protesting. He reached for the bear. His radio crackled to life. William. Marcus's voice, clearer now, urgent. Get out of that cell. Get out now. Asterisk, asterisk, William snatched the radio from his belt, his hand trembling. Marcus, where are you? What's going on? The security office. Looking at the monitors. William, you need to listen to me very carefully. Marcus's voice was steady but tight with fear. Look at the ceiling. Right now. William tilted his head back, his flashlight beam climbing up the concrete wall. The ceiling was stained with water. Damage, black mold, spreading like dark countenance across a gray ocean. But there was something else. Words scratched into the concrete with something sharp. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, carved in tiny letters that covered every inch of the ceiling. Help us, help us, help us, help us, the same 2 words, repeated endlessly. William's stomach turned. He stumbled backward out of the cell, his shoulder hitting the doorframe. What is this? What happened here? 3 years ago, Marcus said through the radio. Before the fire, did you ever read the incident reports from back then? I skimmed them. Fire started in the electrical room. No casualties. Building condemned. William was moving now, back toward the stairwell, his eyes darting to each dark cell door as he passed. That's the official story. Marcus paused. William, I need you to keep walking. Don't stop, I'm coming to meet you. Tell me what happened. Another pause, longer this time. William could hear Marcus breathing heavily on the other end. Cell 347 was occupied by a man named David Torres. He was in for armed robbery, but he was doing his time quietly. Model prisoner. But then he started complaining about noises at night, crying. He said it sounded like his daughter. William reached the stairwell and started descending. His flashlight beam bounced wildly with each hurried step. His daughter? She died 2 years before he was arrested. Leukemia. She was 7 years old. Torres told the guards he could hear her calling for him every night. They thought he was losing his mind. transferred him to psychiatric evaluation. William hit the second-floor landing. One more flight to go. The night before the transfer, Marcus continued. Torres broke through his cell door. Nobody knows how. The door was still locked from the outside, but he got out. He went cell to cell on that floor, waking up other prisoners, telling them his daughter was trapped in the walls, that he could save her if they helped him. Jesus Christ. 15 prisoners broke out of their cells that night. The guards found them in cell 347, clawing at the walls with their bare hands, scratching at the ceiling. They'd torn through the drywall down to the concrete. Blood everywhere. They were in some kind of trance, all of them crying, all of them saying they could hear a child. William burst through the ground floor door, gasping for air. The entrance to Block D was 20 feet away. He could see the lit corridor beyond. Safety, sanity. The guards tried to stop them, Marcus said. But Torres had gotten hold of something, a piece of metal pipe from somewhere. He attacked the guards. In the chaos, someone knocked over an electrical heater. Started the fire. Most of the prisoners came to their senses when they smelled smoke, evacuated, but Torres. William stopped in the doorway of Block D, his hand gripping the frame. What happened to Torres? They found him in cell 347 after the fire was out. He had barricaded himself inside somehow. Smoke inhalation. He was clutching that teddy bear you found. His daughter's bear. His wife had smuggled it to him during a visit. Chill ran down William's spine. He looked back into the darkness of Block D. Why didn't anyone tell me this? Because officially, it never happened. The state buried it. Too many questions. How did 15 prisoners break out of locked cells? Why did they all experience the same delusion? The psychiatric reports were sealed. The incident was classified as a simple electrical fire. William stepped fully into the lit corridor, pulling the heavy door closed behind him. The hydraulic system engaged with a hiss, and the door sealed with a heavy clunk. But it's not over, Marcus's voice dropped to almost a whisper. The crying. It never stopped. Every guard who's worked the night shift has heard it. Most of them quit. That's why I'm the only one left on overnights. That's why they hired you. William leaned against the wall, his legs weak. Where are you, Marcus? Turn around. William spun. Marcus stood at the far end of the corridor, his uniform disheveled, his face pale. He looked like he had aged 10 years. There's something else, Marcus said, walking toward him. Something I didn't write in the log. Marcus and William sat across from each other in the security office, 2 cups of coffee, growing cold between them. The monitors on the wall flickered with their silent surveillance, but neither man looked at them. The rain had stopped, leaving only the occasional drip from the gutters. I need to show you something, Marcus said. He pulled out a worn manila folder from his desk drawer, the kind that had been opened and closed 1,000 times. I've been documenting everything, every incident, every strange occurrence in Block D. He spread a dozen papers across the desk. Incident reports, photographs, handwritten notes. William leaned forward, his exhaustion temporarily forgotten. The photographs showed the same thing from different angles. Footprints in the dust of Block D, small footprints. Child-sized, I took these 2 weeks ago, Marcus said, tapping one of the photos. After a particularly bad night. The crying was so loud it echoed through the whole facility. Some of the prisoners in Block C were complaining about it. Said it was keeping them awake. William picked up one of the photographs. The footprints led from the stairwell to cell 347. Bare feet, each toe, clearly defined in the thick dust. Could be old. From before the fire. That's what I thought. So I cleaned that entire floor, mopped it myself. Took me 4 hours. Marcus pulled out another photo, dated 3 days later. These appeared the next night. The same footprints. The same pattern. William set the photo down carefully. Have you called anyone? The state? A paranormal investigator. Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. And tell them what? That a ghost is haunting a closed prison wing. I'd be fired, institutionalized. No, I've been handling it alone, documenting. Trying to understand what? Why she's here. What she wants? Marcus rubbed his face with both hands. Torres's daughter, Carmen. I found old news articles about her death. She was in the hospital for months. Her father was arrested while she was sick. He never got to say goodbye. She died while he was in county lockup, awaiting trial. William thought about the teddy bear, the desperate scratching at the walls, a father's grief twisted into madness. That's tragic, but it doesn't explain, I think, he called her here. Marcus's eyes were intense, burning with the conviction of someone who'd spent too many nights alone with his thoughts. In his grief, his desperation, somehow he reached out across whatever barrier separates us from the dead. And she answered. She came to him. But by the time she got here, he was already gone. That's impossible, is it? Marcus gestured at the monitors. You heard the crying. You saw the footprints in the cell. You found the bear. Tell me what's possible and what's not. William couldn't answer. He'd spent his whole life dealing in concrete realities, locks and keys, ULEs, and protocols, the weight of steel and the coldness of regulations. But tonight had cracked something open in his understanding of the world. What do you want me to do? William asked finally. Marcus gathered up his papers, carefully organizing them back into the folder. I want you to help me end this. There's a reason she's still here. A reason she keeps crying. We need to figure out what she wants. And if we can't, then we keep listening. We keep documenting. We don't abandon her the way everyone else has. Marcus stood up, walking to the window. Dawn was beginning to break outside, painting the sky in shades of gray. She's just a child, William. Scared and alone. Someone needs to care. Something in Marcus's words struck William hard. He thought of his own wife, the long nights in the hospital, the loneliness of grief. How many times had he felt abandoned by the universe? How many times had he cried out in the darkness, hoping someone would hear? Okay, William said softly. What do we do? Marcus turned back to him, and for the first time that night, something like hope crossed his face. We start by learning everything we can about Carmen Torres. Her life, her death, what she loved. Then tonight, we go back to cell 347, together, and we try to communicate. Communicate with a ghost. With a lost child, Marcus corrected. There's a difference. The day shift guards began arriving, their voices echoing in the hallway outside. The prison was waking up, returning to its routine rhythms. But William knew that everything had changed. The building he thought he knew was something else entirely. A place where grief had weight, where love could transcend death, where a child's cry for her father still echoed in the darkness, waiting for someone to finally answer. William spent the day in a haze. He went home, showered, tried to sleep, but every time he closed his eyes, he saw those tiny footprints in the dust. Heard that mournful crying. He gave up around noon and drove to the public library. The librarian, an elderly woman with kind eyes, helped him search through old newspaper archives. He found the articles about Carmen Torres within an hour. She smiled from a school photograph, missing her 2 front teeth, her dark hair and pigtails. The caption read, "Local girl battles leukemia with courage." The article was dated 4 years ago. It detailed her diagnosis, the community fundraisers, her father's arrest that came 3 months into her treatment. Another article. 2 months later, 7-year-old loses battle with cancer, a small funeral notice. Survived by her mother, Maria Torres, and her father, David Torres, currently incarcerated. William printed everything. He found more. Carmen's love of butterflies, her dream of becoming a veterinarian. The way she'd decorated her hospital room with drawings of animals. She'd been a bright light by all accounts. Happy despite her illness, he returned to the facility at dusk. Marcus was already there, the folder open on his desk. He'd added William's printouts to his own research. Her mother still lives in town, Marcus said. I found an address. We could talk to her and say what? That her dead daughter is haunting the prison where her husband died. William shook his head. That's cruel. Maybe, or maybe she deserves to know her daughter is still reaching out. They sat in silence, the weight of the decision hanging between them. Finally, William spoke. Tonight. We go to the cell tonight. If we make contact, if something happens that convinces me this is real, then we consider talking to the mother. But not before. Marcus nodded. Fair enough. At 11 p.m., they entered Block D together. Both carried flashlights. Marcus had also brought a small audio recorder and a digital thermometer. Temperature drops are supposed to indicate paranormal presence, explained, looking slightly embarrassed. They climbed to the 3rd floor without speaking. The building seemed to hold its breath around them. When they reached cell 347, the door was already open. William's flashlight found the teddy bear immediately. It had been moved. Now it sat on the metal bed frame, propped up as if someone had carefully placed it there. I left it on the floor, William whispered. Marcus checked his thermometer. Temperatures dropped 15 degrees since we entered the block. His hand shook slightly as he activated the audio recorder. Carmen, can you hear us? My name is Marcus. This is William. We want to help you. Just the sound of their breathing and the distant hum of the building. We know you're looking for your father, William said, surprising himself. David, we know you miss him. Sound, soft, a sob. Both men froze. The crying had started again, but this time it wasn't distant. It was in the cell with them, coming from the corner near the toilet. The air grew colder. William could see his breath misting in front of his face. We're sorry, Marcus continued, his voice gentle. We're so sorry for what happened. Your father loved you very much. He never stopped thinking about you. The crying grew louder, more desperate. The teddy bear fell from the bed with a soft thump. William's flashlight beam wavered across the walls, catching those scratched words on the ceiling. Help us, help us, help us. Not just help me, us Carmen, William said slowly, understanding dawning. Is your father here too? Are you both trapped here? The temperature plummeted. The crying became two voices, layered over each other. A child and a man, both sobbing in the darkness. William felt tears on his own cheeks, though he couldn't say why. What do you need? Marcus asked. Tell us what you need. The crying stopped abruptly. In the sudden silence, William heard something else. A voice, young and small, barely more than a whisper. Want to go home? They found Maria Torres working the evening shift at a diner on Route 12. She was smaller than William expected, with Carmen's dark hair streaked with gray and those same kind eyes. Now heavy with years of grief, William and Marcus sat in a booth and waited until her shift ended at midnight. When she came to their table, removing her apron, she looked at them with the wary exhaustion of someone who'd learned to expect bad news. You're from the prison, she said. Not a question. Yes, ma'am. William gestured to the seat across from them. We need to talk to you about your husband. And about Carmen? Maria's hands tightened on her apron. David's been dead for 3 years? Carmen 4-4. What could you possibly need to talk about? Please, Marcus said softly. Just give us 10 minutes. Shh. They told her everything, their words tumbling over each other. The crying, the footprints, the teddy bear, the voices. Maria listened without interrupting, her face unreadable. When they finished, silence stretched between them. Then Maria reached into her purse and pulled out a photograph. It showed David Torres holding a tiny infant, his face lit with pure joy. He was a good father, she said quietly. A good man who made a terrible mistake. He tried to rob a convenience store because we couldn't afford Carmen's medical bills. He thought he could fix everything. Instead, he lost everything. We think Carmen came to the prison looking for him, William said. And somehow, they're both trapped there. In that cell where David died, Maria traced her daughter's face in the photo. She always waited for him. Even when she was so sick she could barely keep her eyes open, she'd ask when Daddy was coming home. I had to tell her he couldn't come, that he was in a place where children weren't allowed. A tear rolled down her cheek. She died asking for him. I wasn't enough. It's not true, Marcus said firmly. You were everything. But a child's love for her father doesn't diminish her love for her mother. They're both infinite. Maria looked up at them. What do you want from me? Come with us, William said. Tonight. Talk to them. Tell them it's okay to let go. Really home? Together? And if I don't, then they stay in that cell. crying, alone, forever. Maria closed her eyes. William watched her shoulders shake with silent sobs. When she opened her eyes again, there was something resolved in them. "Take me there." They drove to the facility in William's truck. The prison loomed against the night sky, all harsh lights and cold concrete. Maria stared up at it with something like horror. "He died in there," she whispered. "My David died in there, thinking I hated him." "Did you?" Marcus asked gently.
How?
"I was angry, but I never stopped loving him." She turned to them. "That's important, isn't it? That he knows that? Tell him yourself." They entered Block D at 1:30 a.m. Maria walked between William and Marcus, her steps steady despite her fear. When they reached the third floor, she paused at the top of the stairs. "I can feel them," she said. "Is that crazy?" "No," William said. "We feel it too." At cell 347, the crying had already started. But when Maria stepped through the door, it changed, became questioning. Hopeful, Maria stood in the center of the cell, tears streaming down her face. "Carmen? Baby? It's Mama." The crying stopped. The temperature dropped so fast that frost formed on the metal bed frame. And then, in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, "Mama?" "Yes, baby. I'm here. I'm finally here. Is Daddy here too?" "He's here, sweetheart. He never left you." William watched as Maria began to speak, her words tumbling out in a rush. She told Carmen how much she loved her, how proud she was of her brave girl. She spoke to David too, forgiving him, releasing him from his guilt. Told him he'd been a wonderful father, that Carmen knew he loved her, that it was time to rest. The air in the cell began to warm. William saw Marcus's thermometer climbing, the numbers rising steadily. And then, just for a moment, William saw them. A flicker, a shimmer. A little girl in a hospital gown, holding her father's hand, David Torres, looking whole and peaceful, smiling down at his daughter. They turned toward Maria, and Carmen blew her mother a kiss. "We love you, Mama. Thank you for finding us." Then they were gone. The cell was just a cell, empty, silent. The teddy bear lay on the floor where it had fallen, but now it looked like what it was. Just an old toy. Nothing more. Maria sank to her knees, sobbing. William and Marcus helped her up, supported her as they walked out of Block D for the last time. 3 months later, William stood in the warden's office, receiving commendation for his work with the new rehabilitation program. The prison was changing, becoming something better. Block D had finally received its renovation funding. Soon, it would house classrooms and counseling centers. Marcus had transferred to day shift. He smiled more now, slept better. Maria Torres had started a foundation in Carmen's name, helping families afford medical care. She'd sent William and Marcus each a card, thanking them for giving her daughter peace. William never heard the crying again. But sometimes, on quiet nights, he felt a warmth in the air. A sense of presence that wasn't frightening, just a reminder that love doesn't end, that sometimes all lost souls need is someone who cares enough to listen and to help them find their way home.